Global Inclusion Project #GIVIB 2020. Interview with Lalo Lizarde. Let's start off by having you tell us about your visual impairment.
Was born with congenital glaucoma and was born in Mexico. Came to the United States when I was about 8 or 9 years old. So really didn't have much schooling in Mexico other than maybe kindergarten. And then once we hit the first grade, I might have gone 1 or 2 days to school, and the teachers, of course, didn't know what to do, how to help me. And I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine that at that point they told my mom, we don't know what to do with him, take him home. And the reason we came to the United States was because it was recommended mostly for medical reasons, just to see if they could do anything about my vision, which I had some vision back then, and had vision up until maybe 25, slightly twice that age. Now, so I've been blind for about 25 to 30 years totally.
Lalo talks about being a parent and how he met his wife.
It was very interesting and at the same time enjoyable to be with the kids, raising them. I loved taking care of them when they were babies, and I didn't mind getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to feed them and change their diapers. And I don't think a lot of people enjoy that kind of stuff, but to me that's a lot more enjoyable than what teenage years bring to parents and kids as well. Whether the peer pressure and those sort of things happening. I met my wife either at Braille Institute or LACC, not sure which one of those places, but somewhere in there. At that time, I was also a member of a nonprofit organization, and so was she. And we would go have lunch, and eventually we got a little more interested in each other to the point where we got married. So that's how that started. And well, here we are, 34 years later, still married.
What are your thoughts on those who think people that are blind shouldn't be parents?
I grew up in a household with 5 other siblings. My youngest brother is also blind, and I think my parents did a good job in that they didn't really treat us any different than the other 4. So if they got up in the morning and were expected to make their bed, so were we. We all had days or weeks where it was our turn to do dishes and we didn't get a break. And I think that is part of maybe what helped me as far as in the relationship and being a parent and so on and so forth, because I was never told that I was special and that I had to do things in a special way. And of course that's kind of a contradiction, because even though there are many things that we can do, we still need to find out possibly a different way of doing it than those people who do have vision.
Have you ever faced discrimination because of your blindness?
When I was going to Los Angeles City College, and I always wanted to go into broadcasting because I thought that that's a direction that I wanted to go because it was something fun. I grew up listening to radio and kept thinking, this is what I want to do. And of course, when you face real life, then the reality hits you that, hey, to get into radio, it's very competitive and you really have to work hard at it. Not that it would have been impossible, but I think it would have been hard to get into radio, especially with the kind of competition that exists in a big city like Los Angeles. So, thinking that I was going to go into broadcasting, I took some classes at Los Angeles City College. And one of the first classes that I went to, got there when the class was just starting, so I sat the first available spot that I could find, and I listened to the professor's lecture. And when the lecture was over, I knew that I had to go up to the professor and let him know that I was in his class and that I would have to record his lecture so that I could take notes later on. Because this is how we did it way back in the late 70s. We didn't have note takers, we didn't have smartphones to take notes. So we relied on using cassette recorders to record our lessons or the lectures. And then we would go home and take notes off of that recording. So going back to my story, after class was over, several of us went up to the professor with different questions. And my question to the professor was, this is how, or I basically explained to him, this is how I take notes in class. I use my cassette recorder. And I'm wondering if I have your permission to record your lectures. And his response to me was, no, and I don't know what you're doing in my class. And this was my very first experience with a situation like this. And I didn't know how to handle it. So I walked out of his classroom, talked to the counselor that was there for helping those of us who were in the visually impaired program at Los Angeles City College, and explained to him what had just happened. And he, I guess, went to administration, but at that point, I knew that I really never wanted to go back to this guy's class, and I never did. I know he was reprimanded, but at that point, you know, it just, to me, it was a big embarrassment, and I was too young to know how to handle it. Do something like that to me today, and it would be way different.
Do you have any last thoughts you'd like to add?
Attitude is everything, and that's sort of the way I think of life. If somebody says something to you or does something to you that you don't like, you have to remember that it's their idea, that it's their opinion. And if you take on the attitude that maybe that's not the way you think, and you respect other people's opinion, then it won't hurt you. If I tell you a joke, and it's really funny, but you don't feel like laughing, you won't laugh. And in that regard, you're using your attitude to say, I don't think he's that funny. And sometimes life can be funny. It can also be serious. And it all depends on our attitude, how we accept that change, that person in our life, that phrase that that person might have said to us, which could be negative, but if we just say, that's his opinion, then it's the attitude that we're changing in ourselves.
Thank you for watching, and a big thank you to Lalo Lizarde, David Martinez, Kari Scott, Dylan Avery, and Alexander Interiano. For more information on the Global Inclusion Project, you can visit our website at globalinclusionproject.org, and on Instagram, follow us at Global Inclusion Project. Below, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you again.